week ago, at this hour, Hurricane Fran started to change our lives.
All of a sudden, the winds have kicked up to 75 to 80 miles an hour.
Trees mowed down, power out in vast areas.
Not only do you see lightning in the air, but you see transformers blowing constantly.
It's scary for everybody.
A good solid 4 hours of pounding from Fran throughout the darkness hours.
Things will look a whole lot better once sunrise occurs.
At first light, scene after scene of ruin and word of real human tragedy.
He was really very, very fond of the fire department.
And also word that life, for a time, wouldn't be the same.
Everywhere there's huge lines. And I'm below E, so I have to have some gas.
Then the real heroes, the nameless faces with a helping hand and a strong back.
I mean, you can't beat neighbors like this.
But the sheer enormity of Fran's fury would nearly be overwhelming.
Been here since 5:30 yesterday morning, haven't slept yet.
This is a WRAL-TV5 News Special. Fran's Fury, stories from the eye.
Good evening. Frightening, exciting, devastating, all words used to describe Fran's fury.
Hurricane Fran packed a powerful punch when she stormed ashore in North Carolina a week ago tonight. Before she was gone, more than 30 people lost their lives, hundreds of thousands of trees downed, and billions of dollars in property destroyed.
For many of you, the power is just coming back on tonight. So tonight we'll relive a week to remember. Fran slammed the southern North Carolina coast first. 115-mile-per-hour winds stormed ashore, shattering homes, uprooting trees, and turning lives upside down.
It was morning before we knew the scope of the devastation. Fierce Fran finished what Bertha began. The coastline is in ruins.
Inland, Fran drenched the already waterlogged region with 6 to 10 inches of rain, pushing rivers out of their banks, flooding low-lying areas.
But the spirit of Carolina shined. People helping people pick up the pieces, put their lives back together. We begin with Fran storming ashore.
Fran is moving ashore with hurricane-force winds of 105 miles an hour, wind gusts reported of up to 120 miles an hour. There is widespread damage to report tonight.
It appears that we have severe overwash at Topsail Island at this time. We have reports that we've already lost the town hall and the police station.
Literally, it was raining horizontally, the wind blowing that hard. Under the lights, it looked like a blizzard. It felt like it as it pelted you in the face.
You hear the roar of jets of wind above you, and it's just an awesome sensation. It's scary when you stand out here for any length of time, and you just hear the wind roaring, you can feel it.
Sheets of rain so white you can barely see through them.
We're starting to really see the fury of Fran here in the triangle.
We got a nasty 2 or 3 hours to get through before we get to that point.
There were power lines at every corner, trees down on every street. It was like a mouse going through a maze.
I almost ran right into some power lines, as a matter of fact, too. You just can't see them.
I was standing out there filming one tree. You can hear them popping in the neighbor's tree next door. Kind of scary when you're hearing that and you're taking a picture of one tree and you're hearing them crackle all around you. You don't know what to
do. We have hurricane force conditions here right now.
That would be a pretty strong wind gust right there. Man.
Hard to hang on in this.
A lot of stuff is being blown around as projectiles, garbage cans, phone booths.
So the worst of the storm itself should be upon Wake County.
I don't know if you can tell, but the rain is falling straight across us, totally sideways.
A lot of businesses took a pretty big hit. We had rooftops being blown off in whole and in part.
Everybody got affected. Unfortunately, and here we are hit with another gust, but we just don't know. We won't know until we get first light.
What hurricane survivors in the Triangle came out of their houses to Friday morning was very frightening. The devastation was massive. Trees down, in yards, on top of homes and cars. Power lines down, cables crisscrossing streets, and you don't know if they're hot.
Raleigh, for example, it's the worst hurricane they probably ever had. There's more damage there than I've ever seen. It looks like it's been bombed. Every block's got terrific damage.
Those who had felt Fran's intense destruction found life reduced to the most primitive of conditions, a different world. The man who lives in this mobile home could forget about driving anywhere, anytime soon. But he's lucky he rode out the storm without getting hurt. The level of destruction is so great, it's hard to recognize some of the Triangle's familiar landmarks. This is what used to be the dam at Silver Lake. Take a look at how the storm washed everything out. One neighbor describes what it's like witnessing a catastrophe.
And the dock, it was all tied up here.
That dock used to be right here?
The dock was right there till last night.
How far do you think the storm moved that thing?
500 feet.
Pretty powerful storm, huh?
Oh yeah, we got trees through the house.
And water poured through the mall. The lower levels of the Crabtree Valley shopping mall were flooded. Water everywhere. Parts of major roads impassable. Nobody would get through this section of Six Forks at Wake Forest or this part of Pleasant Valley Road for a long time. And take a look at the terrific flooding on Highway 70 in front of Crabtree Mall.
This is the shallow part. It's a lot deeper farther in.
The destructive fallout from Fran paralyzed communities, canceled school classes, and made going to work a joke.
I tried to make it to work, but as you see, we're pretty well flooded. I'm sorry, Dick. I'm sorry, Tim. I'll keep trying until the storm clears away.
From the air, we would get perhaps the best idea of the tremendous danger of a hurricane. These are some of the first pictures from the coast. It was enough to make you gasp. Destruction as far as you could see. Lots of people had no idea this kind of power is possible. These scenes alone show you the strength of Fran. We'll take you to ground zero on the coast next.
WRAL-TV5 has more full-time meteorologists than any broadcast station in the Carolinas.
We've got Mike Mays, who has a degree. We have Brian Rosell, who has a degree. We have Chris Thompson, who has a degree. We have Mike Moss, who has a degree.
5 professionals with over 60 years of knowledge working for you 24 hours a day.
That means that I have an awful lot of resources to draw upon that maybe some other people in the business don't.
Greg Fischel and the WRAL Weather Center. Forecasting you can count on. Recently, we hit the road, listening to what you had to say.
We've been all over town talking to people about TV news.
Your likes and dislikes.
More positive attention to children's stories.
Things that protect me as a consumer.
Because at WRAL-TV5, we know that to understand what's important to you, we first need to listen.
What could you suggest that we might improve on?
You can count on our coverage, because whenever you have something to say...
Thank you very much.
WRAL listens.
For 4 hours, this is what it looked and sounded like as Fran slammed the coast. I'm David Crabtree, and take a look over my shoulder. This is a slice of Surf City 1 week later. Now, I was along the coastline last Thursday night as the area took a tremendous pounding. And now many of the beachfront cottages and condominiums are gone, totally destroyed. They were a part of a huge area that became known as Ground Zero.
We heard the roar, we saw the poles lean over and the fire arcing, but it got right quiet like a tornado does and then roars, so that's what we assume it was.
The water said it all. Yeah. Just take a look at the sound. It's normally flat, but it looks like the ocean now, and Fran isn't even anywhere near to making landfall yet.
The weak side of Fran is not so weak. Fran unleashed her fury early, churning the surf into a frenzy, with some waves reaching 20 feet high. A surfer's paradise, but luckily no one here tried to brave Fran's waves.
But most of this will probably be going up here.
One of the biggest concerns, beach erosion. The waves are already dismantling some of these sand dunes.
We'll lose some sand and some beach and some dunes, that type of thing. A little bit of grass front yard, but doesn't seem like it's going to be a whole lot worse than that.
Most of the evening, howling winds gusted through the now deserted streets of North Myrtle Beach. A little further north, Fran shelled Little River Inlet.
About 6:30, the winds and rain finally picked up, and with every passing minute, it got worse. It's not quite 7 o'clock. The eye of the storm is still about 2.5 to 3 hours away. But all of a sudden, the winds have kicked up to 75 to 80 miles an hour. A short 10 minutes later, it was as if the skies opened and poured everything on us that Fran had been gathering for days.
Fran's calling card, destruction. Downtown was a ghost town when Fran hit, ripping off roofs, tossing around debris, leaving a city in the dark.
Just hoping we get home. I know we go home. I just have a feeling there ain't gonna be nothing there. But
For this family, a downtown parking garage was safer than their mobile home.
with this wind like here, it probably ain't even there. I got pine trees all around my house, and they bend over just like matchsticks. And no, nobody wants to stay in a mobile home when it's like this.
Fran's fury took few by surprise. This was a city prepared, but certainly not left unscathed by this fierce storm.
Now, a week later, we have to tell you that for those of us who covered the storm, who were out in the elements that night, it is an experience that none of us will ever forget. It was a night of high adrenaline, high anxiety, a lot of fear, and the next morning we were just thankful that Fran had passed. Pam, Jim?
David, we'll talk to you again in a little bit. Thanks.
Now, with that kind of pounding, you can imagine the destruction on the coast. Later, we'll go back to David for a first-hand look as people went back to the beach, many not knowing if their homes were still standing.
Help out. Yeah, we appreciate it a whole lot. They're good guys, all of them.
But first, storm stories. We'll show you how neighbors came to the aid of each other so we could all dig out.
I was pretty scared, but I didn't get to sleep that night at all.
Fran's fury.
How does WRAL-TV5 give you an accurate forecast?
We use the latest technology to get information for our predictions, and that information is where else? On the internet. WRAL is the first station using this technology to track weather systems. With the internet, we can see details we couldn't see before. That means you get a more accurate forecast. Technology.
Just one of the ways WRAL-TV5 brings you forecasting you can count on. WRAL Online, best overall web page in Cooper's and Lybrand's Best of the World Wide Web competition.
A website that is logical for the novice and attractive to all internet users.
I go to your page every morning to catch up on the news, and especially the weather.
Effectively blending the text and graphics of a website with the audio and video qualities of television.
Find out what everyone's talking about. WRAL Online on the World Wide Web.
The ranks are full of volunteers of all sizes as North Carolina battles back. After the storm, neighbors poured out of their homes to survey the damage, sharing power saws, sweat, and stories.
Tales of incredible wind and rain, neighbor helping neighbor, and survival against the odds. Deborah Morgan joins us now with some of your storm stories. Deborah?
Pam and Jim, everybody has a story to tell about Hurricane Fran, the night she came through, as well as all the destruction that she left behind. That's why one of the first pieces of equipment that people picked up was their camera. They immediately started documenting their experience and sharing their vivid memories of Fran's fury.
It's not unusual to find Richard and Dot Mabry rocking on the front porch of their West Raleigh home. But this night, the lulling sound of crickets can't be heard over the roar of a generator. Their 31-year-old home still stands, but out of the 13 trees that fell on their lot, 3 of them crashed down on the house.
This is the one that came over on the corner of the house, and this is the one that came over the chimney. We were asleep when the first one hit at 12:30, and it just knocked us right out of the bed. And when this tree here fell and went through the ceiling, that's when the water started pouring in the house.
You hear a lot of, the wind howling and everything, and it's like, it's a noise we've never really heard before. And
Most people didn't sleep the night Fran stormed through.
And this was just some trees that had fell.
Trishelle Williams spent the frightening hours of the hurricane in her Raleigh apartment, talking on her cell phone to her mom in Greenville for encouragement.
I was kind of scared. I'm normally a tough person, not scared of anything, but she really, kept me through, and we talked about it. And she said, just realize, I pray for my kids, and you're covered, by God and everything, and nothing happened to you, which it didn't. Everything was fine.
Physically okay, but she was left with a gripping life lesson that shook her soul.
And you really could, felt how people who are poor, you really understand, because I was like, my God, I can't find food.
But Trishelle and the Mabrys feel lucky that at least their inconvenience will be temporary and that they survived Fran's fury.
It's devastating, I tell you. It's just one of those things. We just got to live through it, that's all.
Sort of start from the fact that you all survived, and everything on top of that is just an added benefit.
I've been here for some 35 years, and I never thought I would see anything this devastating.
While Fran ripped neighborhoods apart, she's bringing neighbors together. Folks are helping each other out any way they can, removing debris, making repairs, or just offering a little refreshment. And by the looks and sounds of it, that help will be needed for a long time to come.
It's Sunday, and this is the way members of Raleigh's Forest Hills Baptist Church are spending their morning worship. Church member Kathy Gore Chapel says they're putting action to their faith, helping members of their community in the wake of Hurricane Fran.
We wanted to get out there and help them and be very active in what we say that we believe at church. We thought it was very important to get the rakes out and the shovels out and really reach out into our community.
Chili Hale of Raleigh looks at her tree-cluttered yard and sighs, it's just too much work for one woman and a bow saw to clear away. So the help from members of Forest Hills Baptist is enough to move her to tears.
It's going to make me cry. It's wonderful. I was reaching the point where I just felt like it was more than I could do. This is great. It makes me feel like there really is a community here, which sometimes you don't feel like you've got in a big city like Raleigh.
They offered to come over here with chainsaws and, just pitch in and help out. We appreciate it a whole lot. They're good guys, all of them. The whole neighborhood turned out.
Craig McLaughlin is getting a lot of help from his friends today. His neighbors on Woodland Avenue are chipping in to help clear the trees off of his property. There are neighbors with sturdy chainsaws, kids with helpful arms, an unlimited amount of energy and kindness.
This morning, you could stand here and you could not see our house. Our truck was parked in front of it. You could barely see our truck. And these folks, kids and everybody have just, cleared our house. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's all right. It's a good thing.
So, you can't beat neighbors like this.
Robert Middleton says it's just the right thing to do, help out your neighbors. It doesn't hurt. He happens to have a chainsaw with a history.
My father-in-law used it in Charlotte to saw his way back into his house. when he came from Boone after Hugo went through.
They don't have power, phones, or anything much left that's fresh in the fridge, but they do have the kind of relationships that make this more than just a neighborhood. It's a family.
Boy, family is a good way to put it, especially when there's so much work that's left to do, all this debris still to clean. This was no doubt an emotional experience. At first you had the emotion of being scared actually going through the storm, then the sadness of coming out here and seeing all the destruction. But it really helps lift everybody up, seeing people helping other people and lending a hand. In fact, there are some people that didn't even know their neighbors before this whole experience started, and now they're sharing rooms, they're sharing food, they're sharing their showers. And if you ever needed friends, it certainly is this time that you need them in a disaster like this. And Pam and Jim, the emotion I hear most people saying now, believe it or not, is that they feel lucky. I know I certainly do.
Yeah, I think we did too, Deborah. Amazing how talkative and cheerful these people have been through this whole thing.
Well, I think they're just relieved at this point. I mean, it's very sad to come out here and see everything, but they're just relieved that they made it through okay. Their houses, for the most part, are still standing. But as you can see, there's so much damage left. I mean, look at this car, for example. Obviously, here's the back tailgate. It's crushed in on the roof. The glass is broken all over the place. But people are really helping out. I'm sure this person is getting a ride to work or whatever they need to do. The neighbors are out here now. They're helping each other still.
Yep, and still a long way to go. Deborah, thanks.
Fran's fury didn't end when the wind stopped. She packed a powerful 1-2 punch. Rivers running wild just ahead.
And the battle for power has people standing in lines for the basic necessities.
I watch for the weather.
I think Greg Fisher and his team does an excellent job.
Outstanding job with the weather. And he gives a good, accurate forecast. I like it because it's dependable. You can count on it.
Seems like the most accurate in the area.
Usually when they say it's going to rain, you can look forward to rain or bad weather.
The accuracy in the weather is something that I can count on.
I found it very accurate, and it's been definitely something that I watch every day is for the weather.
We're on the road, listening to you.
We're going around just asking people what they think about local news.
I'm a police officer in town, and I'd like seeing the news that you cover from the crime perspective.
Because at WRAL-TV5, we know that to understand what's important to you, we first need to listen.
Less bad news and more good news.
You can count on our coverage, because whenever you have something to say,
thank you.
Thank you.
WRAL listens.
A deadly mix, a waterlogged region, and more than half a foot of rain. 6 to 10 inches of rain fell in the triangle as Fran swept through. Rivers and lakes across the region were pushed above flood stage. This called for some tough choices, like opening the gates on the Falls Lake Dam, knowing it would push the Neuse out of its banks and into neighborhoods. A painful reminder, it ain't over yet.
From the air, you can see how thoroughly the Neuse River invaded the Buckleberry Road community. 80-year-old Jasper Everett has lived in this part of Johnston County his entire life. He has never seen anything like this.
I thought everything was over and gone. I said, if I looked out the door this morning, scared. I said, that's what's happening now.
The amount of water in Falls Lake is dangerous. Although many people think it's a dangerous solution, the Army Corps of Engineers is unleashing a record amount of water downstream into the Neuse River. The man in charge of the dam says this is a controlled solution to the effects of Hurricane Fran, and no one has anything to worry about.
It's going to be level where it is now, or pretty much so.
But that's no consolation to these people. They live in the Rivermill condominiums at the foot of Falls Dam. Many have already moved to higher ground. Many don't know what to think.
Well, you don't know what to believe because they told us the same thing yesterday. They said the water would not rise up anymore. They told us they wouldn't release but so much, and now they're releasing more.
Wayne County is already wet, and it's about to get soaked. Water rushing downstream from Raleigh is filling up the low-lying areas. Still, some are skeptical about how dangerous it is. This man tried to make his truck act like a boat. Instead, it became an island.
If you're planning to get away from it all at Carr Lake anytime soon, you better change your plans. The lake is very close to its highest level ever. Recreational areas that used to be on land are now part of the lake. Officials just hope they can keep the lake behind the dam.
We're doing the best we can for the most amount of people. And unfortunately, some people are always going to be hurt by it.
Water-soaked state parks are closed indefinitely as we begin to dry out new problems across the region.
The biggest is the battle for power. Fran left more than 1.5 million people in the dark. A week later, tens of thousands are still without power.
As food began to spoil, ice became worth its weight in gold. Long lines formed as people waited to get just one bag. Dozens of stores and agencies gave this necessity away until supplies ran out.
And long lines formed at gas stations across the region. Without power, many stations were closed. Scenes like this haven't been seen since the 70s. WRAL's team of meteorologists followed Fran's path from the time she became a tropical depression on Friday, August 23rd.
Meteorologist Greg Fischel joins us now to show us how Fran's fury formed.
Well, Pam and Jim, Fran took some twists and turns, but once she was declared a hurricane, Fran set her sights on the border between North and South Carolina. A wobble north sent Fran's storm track charging ashore at Cape Fear in New Hanover County.
Hurricane Fran howls through downtown Wilmington. Traffic lights dance to her song of destruction. Blowing rain darts through the air as the storm strikes.
The storm is here.
Meteorologist Chris Thompson at Wrightsville Beach.
Right now it's just constant heavy rain, constant strong wind, and this constant roar. And, you can hear off in the distance trees snapping.
Fran started as a depression way out near the Cape Verde Islands on August 23rd. Took several days to become a tropical storm on the 28th, and then one day later, a hurricane on the 29th. It then flirted with minimal hurricane status for the next several days, just east of the Bahamas, exploding into a Category 3 hurricane, making landfall at Cape Fear at 9 o'clock on September 5th, and then weakening the next day as it headed up into Virginia. One of the interesting things about this storm was that it was headed on a north-northwest track. At the last minute, made a turn to the north, and had that track continued, the center would have gone east of the triangle, perhaps lessening our damage a bit. But after landfall, it resumed its original course, taking the worst damage up over the triangle and up into southwestern Virginia.
Fran marched north through Virginia, leaving her nasty legacy. Torrential downpours forced the Potomac River out of its banks, sending raging waters rushing through parks and historical districts. To us, Fran unleashed the worst fury ever on North Carolina, but in terms of raw power, it wasn't as strong as Hazel, Andrew, or Hugo. They were all Category 4 hurricanes. When it comes to damage, Fran could easily land in the top 10 costliest hurricanes as debris piles up.
Our next concern, of course, now Hurricane Hortense. Speaking of Category 4 hurricanes, we have word this evening that Hortense is a Category 4 with 140-mile-an-hour sustained winds. But thankfully, the storm is going to miss us. Early on Monday, we had talked about a big pattern change in the upper atmosphere, and that change has come to pass, and it looks like it's going to keep Fran or Hortense out to sea very, very easily, and we're all very thankful for that.
I can't know how many people are thankful for that.
Absolutely.
Great relief.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet.
Now, if you would like a copy of tonight's broadcast, send a check or money order for $15 to Hurricane Fran in care of WRAL-TV, P.O. Box 12,000, Raleigh 27605. All proceeds will benefit hurricane victims. The tape will include an hour of additional hurricane footage as well, and we'll show you this address again 2 more times. Just ahead, we'll go back to the beach. Topsail Island took another direct hit. David Crabtree joins us to show us what's left.
And later, Fran's terrible toll. Thousands of trees littering the landscape. We need to do more than just show crime on TV.
WRAL's Jim Payne.
We're supposed to be proactive.
WRAL's David Crabtree.
Where we can be proactive is to give people information that they can use to make their lives safer and give them more of a sense of security.
WRAL's Take Action Against Crime and Crime Stoppers.
If we can give that information back to the community, then it serves them to keep the same crime from happening to them.
It goes way beyond just basic crime coverage.
For a videotaped copy of tonight's special, Fran's Fury, send a check or money order for $15 per tape payable to WRAL-TV to this address. Be sure to include your name, address, and telephone number. All proceeds will benefit victims of Hurricane Fran.
Fran's Fury shattered the beach along the southern North Carolina coastline, and for many homeowners, our Sky 5 pictures were the only way they could find out if their beach houses had in fact weathered the storm. I'm David Crabtree in Surf City. For those of us who rode out the storm last week, there was never any doubt that Fran was going to be a monster. But it was nighttime, and monsters can seem much larger and meaner in the dark. However, at first light the next morning, there was no question that Fran had been just as mean and just as big as anyone could have imagined, maybe even more so. All of us were stunned when we went back to the beach.
As daylight broke, what Fran left behind became clear as day. The storm showed no mercy as it ripped the steeple off the First Baptist Church, a 126-year-old historic Wilmington landmark.
I mean, everybody's heartbroken. It's
The marina at Carolina Beach. Just look at what Fran has done. And everywhere along the coast, scenes like this. Boats that were picked up, tossed about, then obliterated. Down the coast just a few miles at Curie Beach, evidence of a strong storm surge and high winds. Sections of roofs peeled back and sheared off. Debris hurled blocks down streets, still covered by seawater. A watery reminder that still covered many roads well past midday. And Coast Guard helicopters continue to hug the shoreline, a sign of order and authority amid the ruin.
There will be some debate on Fran's place in hurricane history, but there's no debate she hit Topsail Island the hardest. The view from Sky 5 tells it all. As one longtime beach resident put it, if you had a house on North Topsail, chances are you don't have it anymore. Expensive beach homes turned to sticks. Some beachfront homes no longer on the beachfront. Fran picked up one house off the pilings and dumped it right side up, right in the Sound.
A lot of roofs were gone. A number of those houses, I think, are destroyed. But also up and down the coast, we saw an awful lot of places where the beachfront's just gone.
Ruin, devastation, total chaos. These are just a few of the ways emergency crews who have seen North Topsail Beach are describing the damage.
This used to be all oceanfront homes here, and this is the second road.
So they're gone?
They're gone.
This is what a hurricane can do. Fran flattened homes like this one in North Topsail Beach, and residents here say it's going to be a long time before they can rebuild this area. Like dominoes, the storm surge pushed homes into one another. The Mainsail restaurant is totally demolished. It also pushed several feet of sand into roadways. Parts of Island Drive and New River Inlet Road were completely washed out.
There is absolutely no comparison between Bertha and this. Bertha was a light rainstorm compared to what we got here with Fran.
Search and rescue crews marked off each residence after making sure no one was still inside. Special body-sniffing dogs crawled over debris in search of victims. No victims were found.
First experience I've ever been in.
Joni Johnson was almost blown away. She elected to stay in her home through the hurricane.
It was like the mouth of the ocean was just trying to swallow me in, and I saw it and felt it and just scratching my way, trying to reach towards the upper part of the house that was sticking up and just get up that way to get out.
Fran not only hit the Wrightsville Beach area, it hit hard. This father and son rode out the storm in their beach cottage. They say just after 7, the water was halfway into their yard.
And within 45 minutes, we were 30 inches. We went down and measured it. We were 30 inches underwater. The whole island was.
Those who tried to take cover found that even some of the most likely inland places, like the Stays Inn Hotel, weren't necessarily safe.
in that room right there, 248, when the roof came off.
What was it like?
It was wild.
Fran could have cared less about these boats. Her winds and rain and storm surge pushed the boats and piers as if they were toys. And the pictures in Wrightsville Beach look much the same as they do all along the southern coastline.
Pretty frustrating because we just like to get down there and see it, you know.
As with Carolina Beach, residents of Wrightsville Beach may not see much else before early next week. They know they can't change the system. They also know Fran could have been even more of a killer.
We were very lucky once, and we just have to have faith that we'll be lucky again.
This guy decided to paddle across the inlet to his Carolina Beach home. He had to see the damage.
We'll see y'all.
Good luck. Of course, he runs the risk of being arrested once he gets to the other side. Pete Romano and his roommate wanted to see if their home on Wrightsville Beach made it through Fran. The sound side of Wrightsville Beach is littered with broken docks. Pete spotted his home right away.
Still standing, looks like it weathered the storm fairly well.
First, there's relief on one side of the house. Then on the ocean front, there's dismay.
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness.
Don and Mary Alphin have many memories in this Surf City Beach home they've owned for 15 years. What do you think? Can you repair it?
I think so, but I'm not an expert on that, but I believe it can be.
A lot of memories. Hopefully we'll get it built back. We'll keep trying.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Now, we've shown you pictures as we were able to get to the beach the next day, but the first people who came in were emergency management workers. A National Guardsman told me this afternoon that when they first arrived here in Surf City, the sand was so deep along Highway 210 and the houses that had been pushed back from the coast were so thick during that stretch of highway that they drove their Humvees from rooftop to rooftop just to get by. Pam, Jim?
Absolutely amazing. Hopefully some important lessons learned there, David. Thanks.
School year had just started for thousands of children across the region. Ahead, we'll show you how Fran extended summer break.
And we'll remember a man who lost his life trying to help others.
I'm Jim Payne.
Familiar faces
And I'm Deborah Morgan.
at 10 o'clock. WRAL has added a 10 o'clock newscast on the area's newest channel, WB50. It only takes 30 minutes to get it all, 7 nights a week.
Fire broke out less than an hour ago.
An important phone number tops this edition of Your Money.
Greg Fischel's guaranteed forecast.
Let's go on ahead and check the 5-degree guarantee.
And more sports with Jeff Gravely. WRAL's 10 o'clock news on WB50.
No question, the scars from Hurricane Fran will dot the landscape for years. Insurance companies are working overtime to cope with damage to homes, cars, and businesses. The toll from Hurricane Fran is still being added up.
Maybe months before all the bills are totaled, but we know there's more than $1 billion in damage, several thousand homes uninhabitable, and countless trees destroyed. But the greatest loss is the loss of life. More than 30 people died in the storm and her aftermath. One victim died helping others.
There is a sad salute at Bahama Fire Station number 1. Volunteer firefighter Richard Dorsey, Ricky to his friends, died during the hurricane's assault on Durham County. 20-year-old Dorsey was doing the job he loved.
He loved it. He loved doing anything. It was so nice to help the people and to do things like that. He was really very, very fond of the fire department.
Shane Clements was a volunteer with Dorsey and on the job with him when he died. They were called to clear a roadway.
He was totally dedicated. That call would go out 5 o'clock in the morning. He'd be the first one at the station waiting for everyone to get there.
Ricky got the call about 10:30. He and Shane got into a Bahama Fire Department vehicle and went this way, down Staggsville Road. Shane says one of these trees just snapped off and landed right on top of them. They didn't have a chance to stop. Ricky's family took the call.
Chrissy said, it's Shane and Ricky. That's their truck they were driving. They're hurt.
At Ricky's home, a near constant stream of friends and coworkers comfort the family. Hurricane Fran claimed 12 lives, randomly, impersonally. But in quiet little Bahama, Fran will be remembered as the cruel one who took their friend, loved like a brother.
You can't measure the loss of life, but the toll on property keeps mounting. We take you back to Saturday morning. Anyone wanting to hangar a plane at Wallace Airport can pretty much hang it up. They get some high water from time to time, but never like this. In Duplin County, the turkeys are high and dry, but trapped by high water. They should be able to fly the coop by Thanksgiving. Across the county, the hogs have plenty of mud, but Fran tore the roof off. Farmers have to spray their swine investment to keep it cool after the hurricane.
The whole area around Crabtree Valley Mall is flooded. Cars stranded, traffic stopped. And the muddy floodwaters from Fran's deluge cover parking lots and flood buildings at Wake Forest and Six Forks roads. The Beltline is cut by high waters, making Yonkers Road a detour. A train sits unmoving in a muddy river. Neighborhoods like Lockmere look more like swamps than classy neighborhoods. High water was too much for the Bass Lake Dam in Holly Springs. It broke, and the result looks like the Mississippi Delta. Lake Wheeler overflows, sending torrents of muddy water rushing over Highway 401.
Hurricane Fran has left a definite impression in the area neighborhoods. Residents scramble to pick up tons of limbs and large trees that have fallen in their yards.
Fortunately, I had a chainsaw and I've been chopping it up and, shooting it down to the street.
The rest have called on tree service companies. But with so much work to be done, finding a company to do the work is not easy.
We started calling Friday, and all we got was voicemail, the boxes that were filled, and we had no luck. So what we've done is contracted a tree company out of Greenville, South Carolina.
School leaders across the region are trying to get the school year back on track. Fran crashed trees down on schools and blocked roads in and out. Raging water rushed inside some, causing thousands of dollars in damage. 5 school days missed for thousands of children so far. Many families huddled together in beds, hallways, and closets while Hurricane Fran stormed through the Triangle.
It's a night that the Ingram family of Raleigh will never forget, Jim. Hearing about Hurricane Fran through the eyes and ears of a child makes us wonder if these bad memories will linger long after the damage is cleaned up.
I was pretty scared, but I didn't get to sleep that night at all, and so I was just asking my dad, was anything going to happen? And I was worried about that tree falling.
I took one last look out the window to see the blowing trees. About that time, I jumped back into bed, and it was no sooner after that than I heard a crunch and then a crash. And as you can see, this 60,000 pound pine tree came crashing through our roof and into our bedroom.
It just crashed down and it sounded really much like a bomb just blowing up.
There was exploding glass everywhere. Of course, it was dark. I had no, I turned on the flashlight and all I could see was tree limbs and water everywhere and glass everywhere. I would say that the closest branch coming through the ceiling is maybe 5 feet. More like a sword just piercing through the ceiling into the bedroom. So we try not to think about the fact that 5 feet over it would have impaled us on the bed.
Then we just went downstairs and tried to be as safe as we could because that's what we thought was the safest place to be.
If it was lesson learned and to be done over again, with falling trees, do not get in the top floor of the home. Just pretend it's a tornado. And what would you do if you knew a tornado was coming? Because that's exactly what we had here was a tornado effect.
After a major disaster like this, children will begin to develop unusual fears and anxieties.
A few nights ago when we had a thunderstorm, I got freaked out because I was scared from the other one. I was afraid another tree was going to fall.
A child who has a limb go through their house more likely will experience more symptoms than one who has limbs fall in their backyard. The other thing that we will see is sleep disturbances. They'll have difficulty initiating sleep. They may wake up early. They may have nightmares.
We just feel very fortunate and grateful that there was no injuries. We're looking forward to getting back to some sense of normalcy in our lives.
Some of the things that the parents can do are to begin to encourage the children to talk about their concerns and fears. They need increased patience, they need increased tolerance, and they also need increased attention, and they need a lowering of expectations during this period. The other thing that I think is so very important is that they develop a plan about what they're going to do in the future, how they will make themselves safe. Our work suggests that it's very, very important for people to know how to cope if this ever happens to them again, and having a family plan is part of that.
The damage to the Ingram's home there is so bad, we could not go inside due to the risk of falling sheetrock and wood. Dr. Hazlett, who you just saw in our story, has created this coloring book. It's called After the Hurricane, for children and their parents or helpers. It explains in really simple terms how the hurricane has impacted neighborhoods and towns. Now, the coloring book is available at your mental health center or through the Dorothea Dix Child Psychiatry Outpatient Clinic in Raleigh. No doubt Fran's fury will color our memories for years to come.
But despite the heartache, life goes on.
We're on the road, listening to you,
Do you like what you see on local TV, local news?
your likes and dislikes.
Really good, positive news.
I like seeing more about the kids, of course.
Human interest stories and things to help the family.
Because at WRAL-TV5, we know that to understand what's important to you, we first need to listen.
I appreciate your input.
You can count on our coverage, because whenever you have something to say,
We appreciate it very much.
WRAL listens.
It started as the little sister to Edward, the little sister that grew into a monster. We all felt Fran's fury. That awful night when the lights went out, the wind howled for hours and hours and hours, rattling our homes, shaking our souls, making us tremble. At first light, relief and disbelief. We'd made it. We'd survived, but so much of what we'd worked so hard for, row after row, street after street, dream after dream, crushed, and it seemed to go on forever. Together, we cried. But instead of packing it in, we pitched in. Neighbor helped neighbor, cutting down trees, breaking new ground. Strangers showed up with water, ice, a smile, a sandwich, and a story to share. Our new heroes, power crews working day and night, police officers controlling chaos, all those people with chainsaws, trucks, open doors, encouragement. And somehow, it wasn't so bad anymore. Most of us will put our homes back together, we'll get back into our routines, but the memory of Fran's fury will be with us forever. Next time, we'll be ready. Next time, we'll be better prepared, because we know there will be a next time.
Indeed. Some final thoughts now. Let's begin with David Crabtree.
Pam, I was just listening to what Jim was saying in that report. A lot of shattered dreams all along our coastline. Fran was not very discriminating. She took out most everything in her sight, and let's hope and pray none of us ever see anything this strong again in our lifetimes.
David, thanks. Deborah?
Jim, I was out during the middle of the hurricane trying to bring back information to people. What I remember most is that eerie flashing of the transformers blowing up, huge trees like this, and power lines down everywhere you turn, and that feeling in the pit of my stomach wondering what I was going to find when I got home to my house.
Deb, thanks. The recovery from Hurricane Fran will continue for months. Stay with TV5 for our continuing coverage of Fran's fury.
For Jim Payne and the entire WRAL news staff, I'm Pam Salisbury. Good night, everybody.
There's Rogers Bay Campground.
Look, the road is split.
That's what storm surge does.
There's a barn.
Yeah, I'm shooting the middle of it right now. Yeah. see someone cleaning up down there. Oh, you have the blue pack?
No, I never had it.
Yeah, well, I think it's on the bottom and the front.
Okay.
I'll just shoot a little bit more. And I'm almost out of tape anyway, so.
North Topsail Beach and here. It's just devastating. There's this whole road down here.
I was wondering about
Shell. The lab is out front, right? Shell. I just never started that lab got to wait. Got to wait. Shannon's getting it? You couldn't get it? All right, look.
Yeah.
They'd like us to get over to the Black Star as quick as we can. They're trying to organize getting some people home. Ted needs to get back. Apparently Raleigh got slammed and the station's in trouble.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, Enid Lamb. In some cases, probably Kimberly McLam, the first girl. Joni.
Do it again, Brent.
Kimberly McLeod is the first girl. Joni Johnson is the second girl. Dee McLeod is the lady.
Get there before dark and get some food and
Probably